There we go.
Oh, my bad. Hello.
Hello.
And
Welcome back to Could It Be?
An Oak Island podcast.
We are your hosts, Deidre and Dustin White.
Hey, what is up? How are you?
No yelling. Calm down.
You always tell me not to yell. I'm not yelling. I'm just talking with gusto.
Okie dokie. Well,
I'm excited. What are you not excited to be here?
I'm excited. I just don't want to peek out the microphone. Goodness gracious.
Well, hello everybody. We are here to recap season 10, episode 4. And what is it called? Wharf in Pieces? Wharf in Pieces. So hello everybody. Hi to our friends jumping into the chat today.
Yes.
We are here to talk about Wharf in Pieces. So fun episode. I don't think a lot was there wasn't a big progression of the main story, I don't think.
You mean as far as like
things getting done? Like they are building up to getting things done.
Yeah, I mean, Gary had a fantastic episode, I would say.
Gary did have a pretty good episode.
And then we got the
Dumas. Swing and a miss.
Yeah. Do miss.
But they hit a home run.
Kind of.
They're going to hit a home run.
They're going to hit a home run. They're preparing for it.
Yeah.
And yeah. They're I wish they were more excited. Maybe as excited as you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So when we enter the show, like it's actually, we see Dumas coming across the causeway and they're about to go get set up near the money pit.
Yes.
And do their thing at the garden shaft, right? Then we have Rick out there basically chatting with the crew and saying, this is what we hope to happen. This is what we expect from you. Yeah, yada yada, right?
Yeah. And he's like, hey, Scott, tell them why. And Scott's like, oh, okay, I guess I'll tell you why we want to do this. There's gold in the water samples, blah, blah, blah. So we started that last year. And, well, they don't react at all.
Yeah.
They're all like, cool.
Yeah, Deidre had a problem with their lack of enthusiasm.
But, I mean, lack of any
emotion.
Like, emotional. They weren't mad to be here. They weren't happy. They weren't sad. They were like, cool, I'm going to do my job. It feels like there are a lot of I bet you there are a lot of mathy, this is like a generalization here, which I don't like to do. But it feels to me that they're more worried about doing the task at hand than finding what's at the end of the shaft. That's it.
And you know what that is?
What?
Not cool.
Cool.
Yeah, well, it's fine. Hey, they could be excited. I bet you
they get excited later. They're like building up to it. They definitely. So when they gave us the presentation, was it like last episode or the episode before?
It was last episode.
Yeah. And they were very professional, like super professional. But I would say they probably didn't have a partnership already with the Laginas coming into it, right? So they didn't have that camaraderie, if you will. If they're back next year, I bet you there'll be lots of puns and laughter for them to fall back on.
Yeah, kind of like how, Rock, ROC shows up and, I remember when we talked to Vanessa, when we did an interview with her, she was like not expecting to be on TV or anything. She was just showing up to, get the work done, right?
She showed up like no makeup. She's like, and she felt gross. She's like, what do you mean you want me in front of the camera? And she like ran away and hid and wanted their big case on.
That's right.
And there's like, but also she turned them down for years.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, that she said that in the interview that they're like, hey, and we need your equipment, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, okay, I'm not getting wrapped up into this big thing and like having hopes and dreams of employees or whatever hinging on this TV show. And then it doesn't happen. And then she finally says yes, because someone she knew within the industry that happened to be working out there called her and was like, Vanessa, like they really need you. This is the real deal. They're not a joke. And she's like, really? Oh, okay. And I think then they I don't remember. She said she called them back like 2 years later, or the other way around. She was like, okay. So she's already said no to them multiple times. Who says no to a Lagina? Vanessa. Yeah, she does.
Guess so.
Until, so when she felt credible and trusted within the industry, came back.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. That says something. That is all.
That is all.
That is me just fangirling. No big deal.
Basically, I was just saying, like, when Rock first showed up, they were kind of all business.
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
And you're still all business when you come back, but you do have the camaraderie of being, basically
I said summer camp.
Well, you come back and you get to be like an honorary member of the Fellowship of the Dig.
Exactly.
So very cool. Mary in the chat says all business. That's what Dumas was. All business. That's right.
Business.
So there you go.
Well, I guess we should kind of build on that, right? I mean, we kind of go from place to place on this podcast. So we've already got the fact that they came across the causeway, and we talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we talked about, let's see here. Oh, yeah. That's still Dumas' introduction.
Yeah, so we were introduced to a few of the representatives from Dumas, Daniel McKenzie and Al Couture. And I believe it was Al that said they're going to put a cap on, like, because Rick asked him, like, how are you going to do this? What's the plan? And Al, I believe it was Al, it might have been Daniel. Don't know, sorry.
They're new. We're getting there.
Yeah, but it says they're going to put a cap on the top to start, and then from the top down, they can start moving the dirt and rehabbing the shaft, making it safer for everybody.
This is likely what they're talking about with putting the grout. They're like injecting it into the ground around the shaft to help stabilize it, help keep water out, all that good stuff. And later in the episode, we see them pumping out the shaft.
Yeah, well, when they say for everybody, I think there's a little twinkle in Rick Lagina's eye because he realizes, oh, I'm part of everybody.
I'm part of everybody.
Yeah. So Clotworthy explains, what they'll do, and it'll take about 2 months for Dumas to get to basically the bottom of the planned excavation. Any of the side exploration, the side tangents, they don't know what's happening yet. So play it by ear.
Well, and that's getting to the bottom of what they believe that the shaft is, which is what's like 77.5 feet approximately. That's pretty accurate. But also that's 2 months. But as they pointed out, at any point, so pre the depth, we could go off in any direction. So 10 feet down, they take a hard left. You never know. Okay, probably not 10 feet down, 10 feet. But 90 feet, that's where we were getting hits on other stuff.
Then they would have to go past the bottom of that shaft.
Oh, duh. That'd be more than 2 months.
We'll see when we get there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Don't get it too excited, but get very excited because
I'm gonna get it excited for Dumas.
No, I'm gonna get excited for Rick when he gets to go down the hole because he is itching to get down there.
Nice.
Dumas.
Oh
my gosh.
Do miss the target.
Okay. Rick tells the Dumas representatives that they're the eyes and boots component on this potentially history-making agenda.
Dun, dun, dun.
Get us down there, figure it out what it is, and you guys will be the company that makes this happen. Like he feels really good about it.
He's putting a lot on their shoulders, though, at the same time.
But they're literally going to get down, like, in ways that no one else has. They're going to make a safe tunnel, basically, safe shaft for them to get down and get around down there.
This is eyes and boots below the ground. Bum, bum, bum.
This is going to remain open, and I bet you they're going to do special tours to take you to the bottom of the money pit. I bet it's going to be a thing.
I have no doubt.
They're reinforcing this thing so that I think in the last episode they said for years to come, like it's going to be like a thing that's just like a part of the tour.
I get a feeling that the other mines that they have done haven't just collapsed in on themselves later. So, I feel secure knowing that it is them, a professional, making this happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I got a phone call and I had to say, sorry, bro. I'll call you back later. It was actually my brother-in-law. All right. So there was a side interview with Marty.
Mm-hmm. It was your brother-in-law. You mean my brother?
No. Jason.
Oh, I was like, why is Dawn calling you?
No.
Got it.
Different brother-in-law. Different side of the family. How about that? All right. In a side interview, Marty says that there's a high concentration of gold in the garden shaft. And that might be where the treasure actually is. And just so funny to hear him say that because they'd always been ignoring this, even though it's like literally a big, hole in the ground, a big like, hey, look here. There's an arrow pointing at this spot for like years.
No, it started with Dan Henske pointing at the spot. And they're like, yeah, it's, probably from like the 1800s. And, it's probably not pre-searcher. And we've written it off so much. We're just going to build up the area around it into this beautiful garden area because there's no way we're going to end up disturbing such a thing.
Yeah, that's not the way it plays out, is it?
Nope.
Yeah. All right. So Alcator, I was going to say Eagle Canada.
Alcator sounds very important.
Of Dumas, replied that they're eager to get down there and they're eager to get their hands dirty. Rick, whoa, you all right there?
Why are you so yelly?
Oh man, I nailed you. You're like, wow. She like totally spazzed out for podcast only listeners. Oh my gosh, that was great. Rick says that he's looking forward to getting started, and if they ever need an extra hand,
then he's in.
He raises
and by that he means, let me help you.
He's begging them, please. Yeah, his arm goes up literally, and they all laugh. But he thanks them very much, and he finishes saying, "Let's get to the bottom of this."
To the bottom of the shaft. And I think it's funny because Clotworthy calls it the alleged garden shaft. Alleged, like. Oh, no, he calls it the so-called garden shaft.
So-called.
So apparently, I'm guessing he liked calling it Shaft 12 better, or has another term for it.
Gotcha. All right, so now, do we want to talk about Gary metal detecting with Jack, or do we want to talk about what the brief? It would be very brief if we talked about what happened at the money pit.
I was going to say, isn't that most of the money pit? Because what I'm seeing is then the next thing happens is Billy shows up to help him by putting a big hose in the ground and pumps out water. We're like, yay, just like it happened in the swamp.
Yeah, but we also have sonic drilling happening.
Yeah, that's true. We have a bit of that. So
let's talk about it.
Let's get her done.
Yeah, so we like the first time we see the money pit where not the Dumas area, not the garden shaft, but the drilling program.
But approximately, 60 feet away?
Probably pretty close. Well, we see Terry's operating table is set up, and Rick arrives to get an update from Terry and Charles.
Yep. So work is happening on borehole L16, and we see Paul Troutman is collecting water data from the hole to help, and so is Alex Lagina.
Good old Paul.
Paul and Alex are at the water testing.
You realize that's already the second Paul of the episode because there was a Paul from Dumas named Paul Cote.
Okay, so that's third Paul.
Yep.
Is Dute. Because the first Paul would be...
Or maybe it's Cote. It's C-O-T-E.
Oh, Cote.
Or
Cody. Cote.
But it's Canadian, so it might be like a French accent on it or something.
Yeah, possibly.
Cote.
Or just third Paul.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
First Paul is here.
So first Paul and Alex are taking water samples. And did you notice they were not using plastic baggies to do it? A little step up from Steve's technique.
They were using Dr. Spooner's technique with the...
with actual official vessels.
Yes. And it worked. It was great.
Yes, it did. I feel better about those water samples.
Good. All right, so let me see. So Terry, Alex Lagina was helping Paul too.
I said that.
I missed it
3 times.
All right, Terry tells Rick that they found a piece of wood between the depths of 106 and 107 feet down in L16, and he thinks it could be another tunnel And that brings a big smile to Sir Rick's face.
He's all smiles because he knows they're working on the garden shaft, and they got a candidate for some C-14 testing.
Booyah. All right, and Rick is excited because this is a mostly unexplored area of the money pit to be finding material such as this. The wood, it's, like you said, it's prime candidate for testing, and so they're going to make sure to ship that out. All right, and then I think it was Rick saying, there was water sampling, gold monitoring, and C4 testing. Eventually, they're going to figure out this stuff, and Terry replies, well, we'll see what happens. And that's
really it for the money pit this episode, right?
No, there is one more scene at the money pit, and it's where Terry, is standing at the table again.
Yep.
With Charles and Paul, and the big three come around the corner or get out of the car.
Yes.
And they approach the table. And so Choice Sonic Drilling had begun a new borehole at this point called D17 in the hopes of tracking the path to the tunnel from
borehole
L16. Yeah. So many letters and so many numbers.
I know. And anytime I hear like L or T in a borehole, I think of like vertebrae. And I'm like, wow, that's a long, if it's your L16.
Yeah, that'd be like a dinosaur's vertebrae, sure.
Not quite, but still.
All right, so Terry shows them a chunk of wood that they found between 70 and 71 and a half feet from D17, and Charles noted that it was odd to find it at such a shallow depth.
And I concur, Charles. I concur, and Marty likes the idea.
Yeah, it was just something that they weren't expecting to see.
Terry thinks that they've hit an edge, and broken up a beam, and below the 68 to 72 foot range, it goes back into very soft material, and he believes they're inside of another tunnel or continuation.
Dun dun dun.
Insert dramatic groundhog meme.
Is it groundhog?
I think it's a groundhog.
Yeah, it's like.
Yeah. And then zooms in on his
face.
Zooms
in his face.
Yep.
There you go.
That looked like a perfect reenact.
Sorry for the podcast only listeners. I kind of jumped toward the camera a little bit and made the face. All right. Oh, crud. You continue, please.
What? Okay, yeah. Rick says this might be a completely unknown tunnel since, as he said earlier, we're in a mostly unexplored area. And Terry agrees. He says it's a good indication they've got something going on in the area. So everybody's agreeing, okay? And that this presents, Rick goes on to say that this presents another opportunity, because if they find a tunnel and get a bearing off of it, and it goes uphill, that gives them the opportunity to run a series of sonic drill holes, right? Let's keep Sonic busy while they're here. Not everything is happening in the garden shaft.
Yeah, no.
There's other things to find.
Might as well have them explore. Keep exploring, guys.
Exactly.
All right, Marty, he goes into his pet project here, or his preferred idea.
Yes, that he gave us the drawn out example last year.
He goes to say, if you find a tunnel and it goes uphill, it almost has to be an offset chamber. And he asks that there's no other point of having an upward facing tunnel, right? So let's follow it.
But what if it's a downward facing tunnel?
Well,
see, because you don't know the point of origin.
Yeah.
Sorry, Marty, I challenge you.
Well, it's what you always say, like about confirmation bias, right? So like he is just so convinced he's right. I've met a lot of treasure hunters that are just like that,
and just people in general.
Yeah.
Right. We want our ideas to check out, and you're looking for things to prove you're
right.
Right. This happens with theorists. I'm not saying this happens to all theorists or researchers, but often we're looking for things that are going to prove us right, versus what I like to do, and Dustin can find quite annoying because I always play the other side, is finding ways that you can be proven wrong. Like, you got to find the opposite side of the coin. It keeps from being able to poke holes into your theories and opinions.
Yeah, well, you're a real jerk when you poke holes in my theories. Like, I have good theories.
Because you've been looking for confirmation bias. And then if I can't poke the hole in it, then I'm like, oh, that is good. But I'm going to be critical up front. I'm a critical thinker, yo.
Well, most of my stuff you can't poke holes in.
Yes, I can. I do it all the time. Meh.
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah. All right. So in a side interview, let's go back to the Oak Island. Okay?
Yeah. Is it uphill or downhill?
Well, Marty says that they're finding unknown constructions, and the most exciting construction to find would be an offset chamber that holds the treasure. Well,
that would be very exciting because treasure might still be intact.
Like, I do not blame Marty for being so gung ho about his offset chamber ideas. I mean, it's a great idea. It's just funny that he's just so convinced. It seems like he's so convinced that that's what happened.
Well, at least that's what we see portrayed, right?
Exactly.
So, okay, maybe.
Yep. Rick notes that they, when they get to the bottom of the garden shaft, they can do vertical and horizontal probing. And if they find more of this, pointing to the old wood from the table, at the bottom of the shaft, as they probe out, there might be a way to tunnel to it and find out what it is.
In theory, yes.
These are all very exciting possibilities, and they're super stoked about it.
It's exciting to wonder what could or couldn't be. I mean, you have to have those ideas and keep them in mind in your search. I always say, I think the way to find this is the only way will be reverse engineering, and then we can figure out the why after.
Yep.
After you've got to the how.
And hopefully by then they figured out the who and the what.
Maybe. But if we can figure out the how.
We really want the where.
Well, if we figure out the how, we can find the where, and then we can get even further into the history.
And then we can get the what?
And the who.
Woohoo! All right. Terry bags and tags the samples from D17 and says they're going out for C14 testing.
Ziploc plastic bag makes sense in this instance.
Yep, for sure.
Good job.
All right, so we go in metal detecting, or we go into LiDAR review?
Let's go LiDAR review, because it does kind of link back into the metal detecting.
Sure.
Okay.
All right, so LiDAR, yeah, that's right. LiDAR review is a war room meeting. Helmed up by Rick, Jack, Gary, Scott, Peter, Steve, Ian Spooner, and Laird all around the war room table.
Exactly.
Laird asked Dr. Spooner to take a look at that new LiDAR data. And there was a flashback of the LiDAR,
when they did the scanning.
Yeah, the survey. All right. And
with
so
Phoenix Aerial? Phoenix Technologies? It was Phoenix something.
I couldn't remember, so I didn't write it down.
Phoenix.
It was a Phoenix. Fly.
Caca.
Yeah. All right. Spooner says he was immediately interested in Lot 30 when he saw the LiDAR data. And Steve then pulls up a map with the LiDAR scan. And they zoom into Lot 30. There seems to be an anomaly on Lot 30 with it looks
contained within Lot 30.
Yeah, it looks different than most of the other areas around it. And it has like a few squiggly lines, but it's kind of really defined in a box.
It is. And is it really that they found that with the... Okay. LiDAR has been done across Nova Scotia. You can find it, download it, process it, and sort through it yourself. I'm just curious if really it was using new LiDAR data, or was it that it was actually looked further into and processed in a different way. So, yeah, I will be going back into the LiDAR data myself and seeing if I can make this square object appear in Lot 30. I don't know. Just a thought.
All she's saying is she doesn't believe you, Steve.
Well, I may not necessarily believe that, or I just don't know if it means that they didn't process LiDAR data from that was already available in that area in that way, or if it was indeed something because of the new technology. I don't know. Not that they have to tell me, like I'm a nobody. So
you're somebody to me.
I'm just curious if it was something that could have been found in the processing of the old data. That is all.
You're such a somebody that I wrote a poem about you today.
You did not write a poem.
Do you want to hear it?
I've read it. I've heard it. So for those of you that saw Dustin's post on Facebook earlier, that poem, it's so kind. And I had to, when I was reading it, I knew it wasn't him that actually wrote it, even though he said he did. I was waiting for like the punchline at the bottom to be like, and yet she fell down the stairs and all her powers were taken away and blah, blah, blah. But
I'm going to read it.
It was done by artificial intelligence, and then he posted it on the internet with a picture so that he could claim credit as this wonderful, like, romantic poem writer.
Hey, you know what? I posted in the comments that it was made by artificial intelligence.
Yeah, okay? After the fact.
Well, I wanted people to pat me on the back first.
Oh, I know.
All right. An ode to Deidre. Deidre, oh Deidre. With power in her hands, a force to be reckoned with, she makes her demands. Mm-hmm. Her strength and determination, unshakable and true, she conquers all obstacles with a will that is fierce and anew.
Except for stairs.
With her sharp mind and quick wit, she cuts through the noise. Her confidence and poise, commanding and poised. She fearlessly faces the world with courage in her heart. A powerful woman, Deidre sets the bar high, right from the start. She is a leader, a trailblazer, a force to be admired. With her fierce spirit and unwavering desire, she stands tall and proud, never backing down. Deidre, oh Deidre, a powerful woman, truly profound. That's it.
Yeah, as I was reading it, I was actually laughing a little because I knew there was no way he had written this.
Okay, so
I was waiting for the punchline at the end.
Last week there was a new so OpenAI is like some Silicon Valley tech startup that that started a few years ago, but like they're about artificial intelligence, and they made this chat bot where you can literally just type whatever you want into it and it spits out a story or a song or a poem or whatever. And so I literally typed in, write a poem about a powerful woman named Deidre, and that's what it spit out to me in like 5 seconds. It was awesome.
And then he sent me a text that said, I wrote a poem for you. And I was just like, oh, great. This is going to be something ridiculous. Then he sends me that. I'm like, something is afoot here. There is no way you wrote this poem. And then he walks through the door, and I'm just kind of like, okay. He's like, don't worry. It was artificial intelligence. I plugged it into a random generator, and it spit this out.
Well, I also typed into the AI, write a story about Deidre joining the Fellowship of the Dig and finding the Oak Island treasure. And it wrote me like this little short story. I mean, I could read that, but maybe we'll save that for...
we should save it for pregame
tomorrow. So that's an incentive to come check us out tomorrow for Oak Island pregame on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern over on Facebook.com/Oak Island Podcast or YouTube.com/Oak Island Podcast. So
correctamundo.
Yeah, pretty good stuff, right?
So where did that come from?
I don't know. What, the app?
Well, you were talking about the app because we were talking about Oak Island.
Yeah.
Whoa. You need to calm down over there.
Okay, but hey, one quick second. I also asked it to write a poem about brothers Rick and Marty. How did I word it? I didn't say anything about treasure. I just said write a story for Rick and his brother write a poem about Rick and his brother Marty. Okay.
Yeah, but you said like treasure.
I did not say anything about a treasure hunt when I asked it to.
Oh,
and this is what it spit out. It said, Rick and Marty, brothers too, bound by blood and love so true. They may bicker and they may fight, but they always stand up for what's right. With Marty the Smart and Rick the Brave, they make a team that few can outplay. Their bond is so strong and their hearts are pure. They'll face any challenge, that's for sure. Together, they roam the land in search of treasure and adventure grand. They'll dig and delve and explore, uncovering secrets that have been ignored. Their friendship is a shining light, guiding them through the darkest night. Rick and Marty side by side, seeking truth far and wide. And that one was actually written probably about 95% by the website because Deidre fixed it because there was one hiccup.
There was one line and we fixed it together because teamwork makes the dream work. And that is all.
Yeah. So anyway, we thought that was fun.
Can we get back to why people are actually here?
Oh, they love all Oak Island stuff. Come on. It was fun. I had a lot of fun doing that today. I kept asking all sorts of things. And I even did one about Deidre falling down the stairs. It was hilarious. Okay. All right. We ready? Where are we at?
So LiDAR. We were talking about LiDAR. And I was talking about how I wanted to know if this could have been found with the previous LiDAR, or if it actually was the difference in technology or whatever that Phoenix had brought. I understand technology advances, but still you're getting readings back based off of, density of the material that it's bouncing off of, whether it be vegetation or whatever. I know they've done a lot of clearing of vegetation, which maybe would yield back better results. But anyways, I just want to know if they could have saved themselves some money in the budget by just comparing the other data. Mm-hmm. Anyways, that's Lot 30.
Grant over on Facebook asks, have we ever interviewed the Laginas?
We have not.
But one time, Marty called our Oak Island hotline that we don't have set up anymore, and he left us a voicemail, and it was really him. And it was pretty cool.
I'll never forget that. I'm like, what do you mean we have a missed call from Mish? What? It's like a missed call, and we're like, no. We're in the middle of dinner, and Dustin is checking the voicemail, and I was like, no, this is actually Marty. What?
Yeah, and then one of our friends, Jeff, did a parody voicemail right afterward because we had played it on our Oak Island pregame, I think.
Yeah.
And then Jeff's like, "Oh, hi." He's acting like he's Marty. It was pretty funny.
Keep rooting for me.
Keep rooting for me, guys. Okay. All right. So let's go back.
30. Steve pulls up the map, zooms into Lot 30. The anomaly seems to be contained within Lot 30. And Steve says it's about 100 feet by 150 feet long. And Spooner says he's pretty excited about it. It's geometric and not a natural feature. And the real question is, what is it? And we can all see that it's got, nice square edges, and they've had a lot of finds there, as Gary ends up bringing up.
Yeah, it's just weird that it literally fits inside the boundaries of Lot 30.
Very nicely, as if it was from when someone owned Lot 30.
It looks like Lot 30 was already established before this thing was whatever it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we've seen other anomalies that show up, and they don't necessarily fit right over the lot lines. It could be a coincidence. I mean, that it fit right within the lot lines, but we also see that they either drift over them or whatever, right? So
Amisha wants you to bring back the sound bites.
I'm trying, actually.
Oh yeah, girl. One day we'll bring them back.
I've got one from Gary this episode that's
what did he say?
Oh, it's a screamer.
It's a screamer. That was pretty good.
It's so good.
That may or may not be found its way onto Oak Island Trivia. Maybe.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Side interview. Rick says the experts tell them to look for rectangular features because Mother Nature does not do right angles very well. We know that. Rick tells the fellowship there's no reason not to check and see what it represents or what it could be. Laird nods vigorously and says, yeah, Scott agrees. Yeah.
Well, if you got Scott's A-OK on it.
And Laird's. That's all you need. I mean, because this could be an archaeological site, but we talked about how maybe not. Gary noted that the anomaly is kind of opposite of where the wharf from Lot 32 is, where he's found a wide variety of metal finds. And we know they've talked about potentially an encampment there.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes sense.
It's like where they found that bag seal and stuff.
As I look at the notes, so Dustin wrote these notes, and apparently autocorrect got him here, because here's what it says. Steed turns LiDAR off to display different map, noting finds on lot 29 through 32. So Steve is now Steed.
Yeah. he had a horse on his trading card.
That's true.
He has a steed.
His horse's name is Steed.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, we made these Oak Island trading cards for anybody that's new to us and don't know. And we have a trading card that Steve is dressed up as a knight, and he's the royal cartographer of Oak Island, and he's literally like wearing a suit of armor, and he has glasses on, and he has
very modern and medieval,
and he has a horse with armor on. It's pretty sweet.
So it's Steven Steed on his car.
Steven Steed.
But so Steve. And speaking of Steed, we talked about it could be with the right angles and the size of it being very specifically within lot 30, the sheer amount of ox shoes around there. Could it be a corral? Because when he turns on the map noting the different finds on lot 29 through 32, you can start reading through some of the finds. We're like, yeah, this makes sense that it would be a whatever, pen, whatever.
Wharf pen.
Yep, that one.
Yeah, and then over in the little boxed area, you saw a lot of ox shoes.
Yeah, it like specifically shows. Let's see here. I'm gonna look.
She's bringing up the screenshot itself,
so I can see. So specifically within the lot 30, where they've got the rectangular feature marked out, and I find it interesting. There's been all these finds, but nobody has actually found something that says a feature. So an enclosure for animals makes sense, but it says iron object tool ? Raffle pieces ×2, nail, strap, pin, light bulb base, chain link, spike, lead bullet, ox shoe number 1026. So let's just say I get a feeling that they have found a lot of ox shoes, or it means season 10 ox shoe 26. If I had to guess, that might be it. But if they found 1026 ox shoes, then that's insane. Yeah, leather, spikes. I mean, like the things that they have found right near it: ox shoe nail, ox shoe small, hinge, button, double-sided axe.
In the chat, Tom Burns says they need to start looking for babies in there.
Right? Well, Cabbage Patch, yo.
Cabbage Patch.
You are correct.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're going to find a partridge in a pear tree, I'm sure, too.
Well, yeah. And then if we're looking at the map and you go over to where they found, where they're saying is potentially that wharf off of lot 32, and they're talking about an encampment and where they have found lots of things, it makes just all the things that they have found there make sense. So I'm going with the theory of, what do I want to say? A corral.
Could be.
Pen.
Could it be?
It could.
Could be.
There's my theory. Now let's see if we can poke holes in it and find things to prove it. That is all.
Did you see Susan shared a link for the Nova Scotia LiDAR?
Oh, scan? Fantastic. Thank you, Susan.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to the Awoken one on YouTube chat. Saying as exciting as season 10 is, hope the Fellowship doesn't find the treasure this year because they want season 11.
Mm-hmm.
And if the Fellowship does find treasure, it'd be happy. The Awoken one, at least on YouTube, would be happy if it got reburied elsewhere on the island, so they get a few more seasons out of the show. I don't know if everybody would be up for that, but yeah, that's funny.
You can tell that they've done water samples on Lot 30, and oh my gosh.
Man, she is really enamored by that map right now.
Yes, I have
she's
an
obsession. She's a map person.
I'm a visual person, so of course I love maps.
Yep.
Okay, I guess we should carry on. Horseshoe. I wonder if when they found that it was a lucky day.
Well, did they find treasure? It wasn't lucky enough then. All right, so yeah, Jack says that this location is probably associated with a camp, and that could be associated with the wharf itself. And Rick says that could be a possibility. Gary said that it makes sense to be a campsite due to the amount of things they found over the years, and they've got to find out when they were using this area. And Laird says, yep. Jack says that they're probably the first people to find and acknowledge this anomaly. And Rick says, well, the surprises abound. It is Oak Island, after all, right?
Mm-hmm. And whoever built it there probably found it too. But
yeah. Well, whoever built it, yeah, they originally discovered it then.
Probably.
Sure. All right. Rick says that they've talked about everything they've talked about indicates that the area should have an explanation for it. That we can all agree. Rick asks Laird how they go about investigating this feature, and Laird wants to come in and do a small test trench dig by hand across one of the intersections, take their time and make sure that all the bases are covered. So.
Yeah. And we get this animation of this clearing, and there's a lot of test pits. A lot of square test pits.
There is.
Dug by men.
By hand.
And by Helen.
It seems like they need a Miriam and a Liz and an Aaron Taylor. It seems like they need to
bring in reinforcements.
Get the team back together.
Right? Yeah. Because with their powers combined.
Okay, then we move on to Lot 30.
Which, actually take the war room outside.
Yep, let's go out into the field. Rick, Laird, and Helen begin their test pits on Lot 30. Rick asks what would be better to find, pottery or glass, and Helen says pottery because you can get a better date off of it. And I was thinking to myself when she said that, I'm like, oh yeah, because you don't want or you don't want to do this anymore. You want to have an all stop. There's too many test pits to dig.
Don't. But she has a good point because she explains that pottery would have changed in its process and its designs over the years, but more frequently. So you could better date pottery than you could glass. So.
Yep. For sure. And then Clotworthy explains that the team will do a series of test pits, and like Deidre mentioned, in a side interview, Rick says that he wants to define the structure and find any relevant artifacts left behind. So then we get into some metal detecting.
Yes. So we're hopping over a lot. Well, 2 lots, I guess, to Lot 32, which is right at the corner of the swamp.
We got a ninja and his helper.
Yep, a ninja and his helper.
A ninja and his lucky digger.
That's right. And Jack is sweating.
Oh, man.
They're in direct sunlight, and it must be pretty warm.
It's probably in the middle of the summer when this is going on, and he's wearing a hoodie.
Yeah.
What you doing, Jack? What you doing? What happened to your green shirt? Yeah, you bought it in an auction.
Yeah, maybe the mosquitoes were biting real bad that day, and he had to have long sleeves. Maybe. Okay, so Gary and Jack begin searching for targets on Lot 32.
Yep.
And the first target, Jack pulls out what Gary describes as potentially part of a fire grate.
Yeah, and it's kind of a big hole he dug too.
Yeah, and it just, he's like, want to recheck the hole again? Want to recheck the hole again?
Yeah.
And things just keep coming out.
That's pretty unusual. So, pretty cool.
We know you should always recheck the hole. Gary's always saying that, right? But when you just keep checking, and it's like a Mary Poppins bag of holes. It was like, whoop, here's your lamp. Here's some manuscripts. Here's a fire grate.
And here's your coat stand.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's funny. So Jack reaches in, he pulls out more and more metal objects, all out of that same hole. In a side interview, Gary says that this is what he'd expect to find near an old wharf.
Makes sense to me. And this is where we get, as we're going to commercial, Gary metal detecting again and gets a hit where he exclaims, "Woo! Oh, a screamer!"
He was so excited.
It was amazing.
It was infectious because I bet you everybody watching that and listening to that had the same feeling you had. Just glee.
I bet, whoever was filming that, can you imagine the cameras shaking because they're laughing?
Yeah, they're like, oh, well, that's why
they couldn't use the clip.
Yeah, that's why
because they had to use the audio only.
Yeah, it's a drone shot at that point. That's funny. Yeah, they did it both times, a drone shot in and out from commercial, and they used that same clip.
It's so good.
It was so good. Yeah, it was a screamer, all right. The hole at this point seems to be very deep. He just keeps going.
And Gary calls it a Pandora's box of iron.
Yeah, just you never know what you're gonna get. Just keeps going. Yep. And they pull out another huge metal spike. Gary thinks that this one could be a wharf pin.
Yep. And Jack asks if this area could have been a loading and unloading zone, and Jerry. And Gary says it could be like a staging point. This might be the start of something really, really big. Like just the tip of the iceberg. Like iceberg lettuce. Because there could be so much deeper down as well. Because the hole, like you said, it gets deeper, and Jack's like halfway in the hole, like his whole body, and digging through the island. So
I'm thinking to myself, Jack, oh, you're halfway there. Keep digging till it's over your head. Something like that.
Like when he looked like digging his own grave on Samuel Ball's lot.
Yeah,
that was intense.
Yeah, what did we see that in? Somebody had to dig their own grave. Was that on Lost? I think that was on Lost. That was also an island show.
That was on 24.
Was it on 24? Oh, yeah, it was on 24 as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that was apparently the shows we watch. Awkward.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to the Oak Island Interpretive Center, a.k.a.
the lab, the mad scientist lab.
So when we were watching this, Deidre pauses it, and she's like, look at all those books on the shelf.
I paused, I go, is that Darcy O'Connor's book?
I was like, I think it is.
Like a big, because it's a very distinctive looking book with its lime green on it. And then there's like another pile of books that are all exactly the same. And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess they have to put the stuff they would have sold in like the interpretive center area gift shop merch somewhere.
Yeah, well, like that's where they would have like the Oak Island shirts and
the books.
Yeah, and well, Deidre's like, can you see our friend Cindy and Michelle's book?
I was like, are they up there? Is that one of them?
Where's what's the title of the book again?
Which one? Annie Goes to Oak Island?
Annie. Well, I'm talking about
Annie. Or Sophia Sellers?
Well, I'm talking about Annie mostly. Annie Goes to Oak Island, of course.
I was like, no, that one's not the right color.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but that was pretty fun. All right, so when they get into the interpretive center, the lab, as Deidre likes to call it, Rick, Marty, Laird, and Helen. Helen wasn't like with the crew, but she was back there. I saw her.
Yeah, she was working.
So I'm making sure she was included. They welcome they welcome Gary and Jack into the lab, and Gary shows them the artifacts that they found on lot 32, and it's like a smorgasbord of finds.
Right. Maybe even a charcuterie board, if you will.
Sure. So Laird notes the strength of the piece and the decorations on it, and the lines crossing all over it. And Marty asks if it's a piece of a stove. He had the same instinct that Gary had.
Yeah.
And Laird replied, that's kind of what it feels like, doesn't it?
And Gary agrees. And that's what he said. Well, that's kind of what we were thinking. Well, good. Because they have found a few stoves on the island. So this makes sense. Logic. I love it.
Yeah, wasn't there a potbelly stove they found one time?
Yeah.
So Gary shows them another metal piece and says that he thinks that they're fasteners or pins. The last piece is the big giant metal spike.
Yeah.
That Gary thought might be a wharf pin.
Mm-hmm.
Marty says, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Basically, he thinks it's a rock chisel based on what he's learned from Carmen Legg. So might need Carmen Legg to come in and see who's the winner between Gary and Marty.
It was still like they were pretty encrusted because they were down so far.
Oh yeah.
So it should be interesting once they scan them, clean them, get all the data that they can. Yeah, I bet Carmen will know what it is instantly. He's probably, maybe he owns a few of them.
He looks at it and says, yep.
Yep.
He says, Marty, you're right. Or, yep, Gary, you're right.
Or you're both wrong. Because he's definitely done that a few times.
That even might be more likely.
Right.
Yeah. So they're all intrigued by these items, and especially the ones that came from so deep in the hole. Gary says that they need a better machine to get deeper, and Marty asks Laird for special request.
Yeah. What do you call it? Like mechanical tools. And everybody knows Laird doesn't look highly upon mechanical trowels, if you will.
Yeah, but he gives in. And he
very easily.
Yeah, Marty asks him if he could take a backhoe to the area, and Laird says, absolutely.
Which, well, okay then.
Yeah,
let's go, Laird.
It literally put a big smile on Rick's face. So, very, very cool. And then we go into the digging.
Dig, because it's what Marty likes to do.
Marty is literally in his happy place.
Yeah, he's like, yay, machinery.
He's like, yay, I finally get to do this. Billy's not here. Woo!
Yeah, I get a feeling he's not a guy that sits still very well.
Yeah. And so Marty joins Gary, Laird, and Jack over on lot 32 with his backhoe. There's a hole, and it has one of those little flags you're so desperate to obtain.
Yeah. I was told no by a particular individual, so I've got a handful of others I will now ask.
Wow. Okay, Dad said no, so go to Mom.
Yeah, wow. And if Mom says no, I'm going to go to Grandma, and I'm going to go to Grandpa, wow. And I'm going to go to the aunts, uncles, and cousins until somebody tell me yes.
And then they're your new best friend.
And then they're my new best friend. So, and I'm like, can you please put that in the mail as soon as possible so that Dad doesn't find out?
Okay. Anywho,
I have not given up, friends. You have asked, I shall try to receive.
Marty begins digging at this point. He starts scooping out all that dirt. Gary jumps into the hole that he had made, and he starts, scanning his metal detector around.
Yeah, he's happy to do it.
He does find a good signal, a two-way repeatable.
Yes.
All right. And so Gary starts, poking around, digging it out. He finds some lead sheathing.
400-year-old duct tape, says Marty.
Yeah. So Gary says that this is kind of stuff they would use on the hull of old sailing ships to stop leaks, basically.
Yeah, and we've seen that stuff come out of the swamp and a variety of other places. So
yes,
it makes sense that since there was clearly a lot of activity on the island.
Clearly. Yes. So Gary gets back into the hole, and
gotta recheck the hole.
He finds something, and he hands it to Laird, and Laird it's like a weird it's a weird shaped thing, and Laird says it could be some sort of handle. Gary supplied maybe from a ship's stove.
Last time he pulled something out that thought could be a handle on lot 4 with Marty.
What was it?
It looked like a big piece of poop.
Oh yeah, that's right. Turd. You're gross. You're so gross. All right, so there was another strange looking item that came out, and it appeared to be some kind of tool. Gary gave it to Laird for an opinion, and Laird said it's definitely hand forged, whatever it is.
That was his opinion.
And it was weird looking, it was like bendy, and they were like manipulating. I'm like, whoa, dude, what if it just snapped?
Well,
but Laird would know.
Yeah, Laird, if he was concerned, he'd be like, stop that.
Yep.
And he'd have his
precisely.
Yep. So Marty, in a side interview, says it's encouraging to find all this metal on lot 32 because it could be related to what happened on lot 30. Every time Gary waves his magic wand, more metal comes out, and the hope is that these are puzzle pieces that could help them figure out what happened on the island.
I wonder if Gary knows about the swish and flick. metal
I don't know.
wand move.
I don't know if that's a technique that he's got, is the swish and flick. And maybe that's more of a trowel move, like go around the object and flick it out. Yeah, you'd have to ask Laird.
Possibly. Yep. So anyway, they show all this stuff. Gary says, "Ooh, this is exciting."
Yeah, because it's like Christmas for him. Mm-hmm. It just keeps coming out.
Marty tells Gary that this little area has enough metal in it to keep him busy for the rest of his life.
Oh, he's stuck in this hole for the rest of his life.
Yeah, I don't know if Gary's so excited about that. He really wants to get back to the treasure coast of Florida at some points of the year.
A little warmer.
Yeah. Yeah, so Gary asks if they could take another shovelful out of this area, and Rick said, "I vote yes," and he raises his hand.
Yeah.
Again.
But of course, we know there's backfill there that they put on to keep the shore from eroding so much, and that Laird tells them, "Yeah, you can take off any backfill. I don't care." So Gary's trying to show them where the horizon line is, if you will.
Yep. And so yeah, they found more potential pieces of a fireplace. You know, that just keeps coming up.
It's the IKEA fireplace.
Mm-hmm. Marty yells, "Good! Find something good, Gary!" And Gary pulls up a metal something with a shell design on it.
Yep, could be part of the stove, but yeah, it definitely had an intricate design.
Yeah, I think Gary actually called it like a scallop.
Mm-hmm. Which it is scalloping.
Yeah.
Gary says, "Now you're cooking." After he says he thinks it's part of a stove, and Rick thinks they might be able to piece the whole stove together. "Now you're cooking."
That's a great one-liner. Mm-hmm. If you were there on the spot and he says that, it's got to feel like, "Oh, you got me, Gary."
It's puntastic.
Yeah. Gary finds another target, and it's making a sound. It's a sweet sound. They really like it.
A sweet sound.
And he digs it up, and it's possibly an old strap.
It could be.
It's a metal strap. And Jack has the question that's on everybody's minds.
Well, at least it's on Jack's mind, because he's always going straight to an old chest.
Duh, that's the first place you go.
And Laird, he always kind of gives them the little edge, like, it could be, because he never is definitive about anything at first. So he gives them a little rip. Yeah. I mean, it could be. It's not out of the question.
He lets him have his moment.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
He doesn't crush his excitement. He's not like the parent that, is just crushing excitement. He's like letting them be excited.
Yeah, which is funny because he's also known for crushing people's dreams, but not always on the spot, it appears. He has to do his research and properly crush them. At this time, he lets them build themselves up so he can bring them down after.
Mm-hmm.
Well played, Laird. Well played.
Yep. So Marty says it was probably a wharf here, and Rick says that would explain everything they're finding. Mm-hmm. Laird thinks that this has been a pretty successful dig, and he wants to take some of the artifacts back to Emma.
Mm-hmm. And have her scan them, right?
Yeah, get CT scanned up at the that one place.
The lab. The interpretive center. Interpretive center, you're interpreting artifacts.
Sure.
Why not?
You know what's really funny? Okay, so you ever notice this when you're watching and they go to the interpretive center and they have like that banner across the bottom of the screen that says Oak Island Interpretive Center?
Oh, yeah.
And then they'll go to like the research center and it'll say Oak Island Research Center. Well, the interpretive center is spelled with the Canadian spelling for center, CENTRE. And then when they do the Oak Island Research Center, it's spelled ER, like Americans would spell center. You ever notice that?
No, but you have Americans that own the land there, and then you have a lot of Canadian workers, so they're finding a middle ground in their spellings.
They both get to be happy.
And
they're making everybody happy and welcome.
Right? Everybody's happy about something and everybody's sad about something, so it's equal. You can't have all the things.
I thought you noticed small details like that. What's wrong with you?
I do notice small details, but I'm also not the best speller, and I rely on spell check more than I care to admit. Okay. So,
sounds good. All right. So in a side interview, Laird says that they have an agreement with the province that states if they find a lot of artifacts in one area, that his team will have to go in and set up a test unit to determine whether or not those fines are significant.
So while Gary could be busy in there for the rest of his life, actually, what they're saying is Laird could be busy in there for the rest of his life. Maybe they need to hire someone to come in and just dig in that hole all day.
Well, we know an archaeologist named
I'll do it.
Deidre wants to do it.
I'm sure I'm cheaper than an official archaeologist. I'm a quick learner.
And you're Laird's friend.
BFFs. We go way back.
You guys you hang out.
We're homies.
You have coffee.
We had coffee and tea together.
Good for you. That's great.
Just a bit of a cuppa.
Yeah. So Laird asks Marty to clean this area up a little bit, the dirt, and he'll be able to come back in and set up his test unit, and we'll see what happens.
It's ironic saying, can you just clean up this dirt? This dirt's dirty. See what I did there? I'd fit right in.
You should go clean it up.
I should. That's what I was just proposing.
That's what I'm telling you guys. All right.
Okay. To the war room?
To the war room.
For some C14 data. So we know Craig's going to be there.
Oh, absolutely.
That's his official title, I've decided. C14
that?
Data Results Deliverer.
Okay, sure. So he's there via video conference with Marty. Present in the room are Rick, Steve, Scott, Paul, Jack, Doug, Peter, and Dr. Ian Spooner. So
why do we always use Spooner's last name?
I don't know. He's a doctor.
I know, but so is Aaron Taylor.
Okay, I say Dr. Aaron Taylor all the time too.
You do? I just call him Aaron. But
well, you're friends with these people. I'm not.
But when the guys reference him, I know it feels weird to me, but if they call him
Spoon
Ian.
Dog. They call him Spoon Dog.
No, they call him Ian. And I'm like, who's Ian? Because I just call him Spooner.
Okay, so these people that go to school for a dozen years to get their doctorates, they deserve to be called doctor. It's a respect thing.
Did you know there's not enough official authority for a lot of these letters people put at the end and beginning of their names? I could just put a bunch of letters at the end of my name and say it means something.
Go for it. Can I do it too?
Sure. LMNOP. Deidre White, LMNOP. And they'll be like,
whoa, she's important.
She is important.
Dr. Deidre suddenly.
Yeah. Or am I something else? Maybe. The world will never know. Just a little side.
Kind of like
my name is a legal thing in an entity, if you will, but not LMNOP.
We should have named David just Doctor. Wouldn't that be fun?
No, we're not going to turn back time.
You guys might have heard this before, but I wanted to give our son David the middle name The. And Deidre said, absolutely not. And that made me sad because he would be David the White. And that's so cool.
And
his birthday's in 2 days.
It is in 2 days.
He's going to be 9 years old. He's our sweet boy. 9
years old. Oh, my gosh. Okay. So, Dr. Ian Spooner.
Yeah. If you want to call him Ian, go for it. That's
it doesn't feel right.
He might not take too kindly to that. He worked hard to be a doctor.
I should have asked him that.
So what do you call Dr. Aaron Taylor?
Aaron.
And he's fine with that?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
I've asked.
Is he hurting deep down that you're
No. I'm very straightforward with Aaron.
Okay.
So if he wanted me to call him something different, he would tell me.
Yeah, and he'll be like, no, you could call me doctor to me. And I'd be like, okay, Dr. Taylor.
Okay.
Yeah.
LMNOP. Yeah. So, and we already talked about Marty and Craig being there via video conference. Rick asked Craig if he had the C14 data from the samples from L16 and D17, as if that's not the entire reason that they are there.
Yep. And he does.
Well, looky here.
Looky here. So Craig presents the data, and what does it say?
So for L16, which was taken about 107 feet deep, it says 52% was 1724 to 1812, 21.8%, 1648 to 1695, 17.8%, 1916 through post AD 1950, 3.8%, 1838 to 1878.
So what it's telling me is most likely it's before 1838.
Yeah.
So prior to, like, I don't know. Like, so 1795 is the date, the discovery of the money pit.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of dates in here that are prior to that, and that makes up about 70 some percent of this total. So it's more than likely than not that it's prior to the discovery of the money pit. This wood was inserted in, that was cut down from this tree or whatever.
This feels like a shotgun shell splatter approach here. Like, because you have 52%. Yes, that's over 50% in this one time period. But then it feels really all over the place, right? Because we've gotten back very definitive results, like even at 70% or whatever within this time frame. But this, I'm just curious, is it because the sample that was sent off wasn't a great sample, or is what they have to compare it to, they don't have a lot of data within those time frames? I don't know, because I'm always curious about why we would have such variation.
I know, it's so weird. Like, I do not understand C14 testing, apparently.
Well,
like, I get it, but I don't get it.
Yeah, because this isn't dendro, where we're comparing the slabs to other slabs and being able to count, like, let's say they didn't definitively had good samples from that time range. I really should do some more research on how they get there with these C14 datings, because I'm very confused as to why this. So maybe some of you doctors out there could help inform me.
Maybe.
I'm a quick study, though, Dr. Google.
You need one of those chat AIs where you just type in, like, you ask it that question and it can give you the correct answer back at you. Isn't that what Google is, basically?
Yeah.
Hey, I just got a text message from Pizza Hut and it said hungry. I'm like, yeah. I'm so hungry right now.
Sorry, you should probably unsubscribe from that.
Yeah, like I had like some health issues this last week, and Deidre's been,
it's been just over a week ago.
Yeah, she's like, my rock, supporting me, making sure I get through all this.
Not very stable rock right now.
Yeah, so she's a balanced rock. And then wobbly though on that one leg. Anyway, but I have to change my diet and stuff, and I get this text from Pizza Hut, and it's like, you hungry? I'm like, yeah, I want some pizza.
I want some pizza. I want the card.
With a tear in my eye.
And I'm saying sorry, but no.
Yeah. All right, so back to the war room. Marty says that there's at least a 50% that it can't be Searcher because nobody was digging around 100 feet at that time period.
Mm-hmm.
So Craig actually chimes in. He's like, I think it's actually more than 50%. So
okay.
Yeah, I agree, Craig. And then we have D17 data.
Mm-hmm.
And it's mostly, it's a lot of the same. It's like not the exact same dates, but very close.
Yeah, and even with very similar spread, if you will, as far as the dates go. Because like your highest percentage is 49.9%, 1722 to 1814, 19.2% at 1656 to 1698, 19% at 1910 to post AD 1950, and then 7.3% at 1836 to 1880. So it's
it's much the same, even though it's in a different location, because this one was what, 100. Which one was 100 feet? I don't remember.
100 feet is the L16.
Yeah, so it was 107 feet deep. And this other find was kind of, it's like the same kind of wood, basically. Mm-hmm. And it's at the 70 foot, so that wood, basically, could be showing the offset chamber, like Marty's thinking, going away from the money pit upward because it's higher, and then it goes lower toward the closer you get to the.
But we also have to remember, regardless
it's going deeper. Never mind.
What you're digging, if you're trying to get down somewhere or up somewhere, it's going to come in at an angle at some point, right? It doesn't necessarily just mean an offset chamber, but based off of these results, could these two boreholes have hit the same potential structure because their C14 dating was so similar? I think yes. It is very possible that this says that they're related because the results that came back were so similar. Yeah, clearly it's not going to be the exact same piece of wood when they're far apart, and they're going to use multiple kinds of wood and trees.
Yeah.
But they likely came around the same time. And for some reason, that type of wood is coming back with these mixed results. And we've heard that they do tend to send these out, especially when they come back with these type of not fully definitive results, to a few different labs to get confirmation. Because if the next lab sends us something back that looks very similar to this, then it's not just a snafu. Give me the data. Show me the data. To the money pit. No? Okay.
I'm just trying to process all that you said. I kind of tuned out a little bit there in the middle.
What I said was important. Good thing it was recorded here forever.
Thankfully.
Yeah.
All right. Craig says that they're almost identical, and the majority of the percentages are pre-searcher time periods. So that's what's important here.
Yep.
Doug chimes in and says that the depth of 70 feet doesn't correlate with the efforts of searchers getting to a treasure chamber. So, I mean...
But why not? You have to start it at the surface.
Yeah, well, I mean, as an ending point, I think is what he meant. So it's just all intriguing.
It could correlate. It just wasn't maybe documented within what we have. That is all.
Yep. Marty asks, is there any historical record of searchers looking at 70 feet? And the reply was no. So Marty says that 70 feet almost feels like an offset chamber.
Almost.
He's really into that. I hope he's right.
Marty gets his one theory he's allowed to write home about, and when you're the owner, you can have the one you want.
Absolutely. All right, so the episode ends here with Rick saying that they continue to be mesmerized by the Oak Island mystery. It's complex, it's difficult, and they have to follow the data, and the data continues to be quite provocative. So let's start getting some more real answers.
Bum, bum, bum.
And I'm thinking, Rick, that's what you guys are trying to do every time. But that's good because that'll get us to the end of the tunnel one day.
If it's an offset chamber, maybe we're rolling down into it.
Maybe.
All
right, so that was a recap for season 10, episode 4, Wharf and Pieces.
Yes.
The Curse of Oak Island. Now we get to talk about next time on the Curse of Oak Island. I don't yell. You yell.
Yeah. This explains why I usually have to have your microphone down further.
Sorry.
But it's but my tone of voice screeches it out. But I have a very annoying
But I'm very excited to do a podcast, and you're not. So.
I am excited.
Oh, are you? I can't tell by the tone of your voice.
Yeah,
you can tell by mine.
Tell by the words that are coming out of my mouth.
Okay, Chris Tucker, Jackie Chan.
Whatever.
Remember that movie? Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Rush Hour? No? All right.
I think I may have saw it.
All right. Well, next time on The Curse of Oak Island. So this will be episode 5. I don't remember the name of it.
Not sure.
I didn't look it up.
It's something about the Duke.
Oh, Don V or the King?
Alex.
King Alex? No, the King Louis. We have Corey and Maul in this episode.
Which is exciting.
It's the Corey and Maul episode.
Because I ran into him when I was in Nova Scotia. He didn't tell me all his secrets. I tried, though.
But you ate dinner with him.
I did.
And that was fun.
Him and Chris were very lovely company at the mug.
Yeah. Good. Wonderful.
That is all.
All right. So Jack and Gary can be seen digging close to the water at the beginning of this clip.
Mm-hmm.
Jack digs and up an artifact, and Gary says, "What the heck is it?" And he's very excited.
Of course, as always. And Carmen Legg is seen in the Oak Island Research Center with Rick, Craig, and Jack. He's examining an artifact and says it was very common in the mid 1700s.
That's a good time period.
That was a lovely time period.
Hey, 50 years before the discovery of the money pit, that's all you need to dig a big complex cave system.
Mm-hmm.
So, or tunnel system. Yeah, that's it. All right, so we see a war room setting with Marty, Rick, Paul, Doug, Billy, and Scott, and we hear Corey Mull's face.
We hear his face.
We hear his voice saying, in 1746, King Louis XV sent 2 ships to Oak Island, where they later created the money pit. Dun, dun, dun.
What?
Oh, man, I can't wait to hear more about that. That's awesome. I love that French stuff. That's good stuff.
It is good stuff. Let's see here. Rick can be seen at the garden shaft construction site, and he says if they can find original works at the base of the shaft, it may solve the mystery. That could be the one thing.
It could be. So there's another instance of an underwater camera mission with Rick, Scott, Paul, Steve observing progress on monitors.
Mm-hmm.
And we can hear Steve say, whoa, 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 what's that? And then Steve follows that up by saying, that's a view down a tunnel.
Rick asks, is it possible that this tunnel could lead to finding the treasure?
And Rick answers, the answer is unequivocally yes.
Paul and Scott beam at Rick. They look on adoringly.
Of course they do. Who wouldn't look adoringly onto Rick? I bet all the people in our chat do. I do.
Okay.
All right.
Now you're just getting weird.
All right. So that was it. That's the episode. We do have one more thing before we go.
Yeah. So we tend to give out. Well, okay. So first off, there is no trivia
today.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But there is next week.
Yep.
Because we will be going over episodes 4 and 5 for the next trivia session.
Yep.
Correct? And usually you have me pick a number.
Yep. I'm going to have you pick a number between 1 and 10 because there are 10 trivia questions from this episode. And the one you pick, I will get out of my list and I'll read it. And so anybody that's listening to this podcast can get a leg up on the competition. They know to go back and look for this specific thing.
Dun, dun, dun.
So I need you to pick a number between 1 and 10.
Okay.
And I will read the Oak Island trivia question.
Okay. Last week, I went with 2.
Mm-hmm.
And which was towards the beginning of the episode. So let's go to the end. Number 10.
Ooh, okay.
Like my logic there?
Yep, let me get to number 10. Yeah, I don't, your logic, whatever. But sure. Okay, so number 10. Okay, so Oak Island Trivia. This can get you on the quest to win that golden gnome, people. There's a lot at stake here.
Oh, it looks good.
Yeah, Deidre actually painted the golden gnomes this week. All right. Well, the golden gnome, the silver gnome, and the bronze gnome. All right. So question number 10 and this will come up next week. During the final war room meeting of the episode, who is seated on the immediate left of Jack Bagley? Is it 1, Scott Barlow, 2, Steve Guptill, 3, Paul Troutman, or 4, Peter Finetti?
Okay, so go in and check out for this episode during the final war room who's sitting
to the immediate left
to Jack's immediate left.
Yep. And that'll give you a leg up to start with 1 point on the total board, and people that weren't here or didn't listen to the podcast, they missed out.
Yep.
So this is for you. We'll be back with Oak Island Trivia. That'll be next week, Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern on Facebook. And then we'll be back tomorrow.
Yes.
For Oak Island pregame.
Yeah. And that is at 5 p.m. Pacific.
And 8 p.m. Eastern.
And 8 p.m. Eastern. It's about 45 minutes long. And it's just us getting excited about the episode that'll air that night in the US and on Sunday in Canada.
Yep, really just informal hangout session.
Yeah,
it'll be fun.
It's our chance to chat with you guys.
I'll probably write a few more poems about Oak Island, and we can listen to them together, or I'll read them out. It'll be great. She loves it. Don't let her fool you. All right, so if you want to get a hold of us, you can email us at oakislandpodcast@gmail.com.
You can find us on Facebook and on Instagram at Oak Island Podcast.
We're on Twitter.
Yep, at Oak Island Pod. And wait, you already said they could email, Twitter, YouTube at Oak Island Podcast.
/YouTube. Yep.
Or YouTube /Oak Island Podcast. They let you have handles on YouTube now.
Yeah. And so Susan's putting all of our links up in the chat. Thank you so much, Susan. She does say we love mystery mail, and we do.
We have a few for tomorrow.
We have a few for tomorrow. So this is great. So if you want to send us a mystery mail, it's 15640 Northeast 4th Plain Boulevard, Suite 106, box number 411, Vancouver, Washington, 98682. Booyah.
Booyah.
Yeah. So, come and join us tomorrow. And then we'll be back for another recap episode 1 week from today, Monday at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern for episode 5.
Correct. And we will see y'all tomorrow.
All right.
Until next time.
Could it be?